Hey there guys, what is up? My name is Manthis, and in this video we're going to look a little bit into detail about the jewelcrafting profession in World of Warcraft Shadowlands. Now, we are still in beta. This does mean that a lot of the stuff that is put forward in this video is subject to change, and a lot of it is only based on opinion so far because we don't have solid live data to go by. But jewelcrafting is looking to be a very strong profession going forward, so let's dive in and have a little bit more detail about how you're going to level up, where you're going to make some gold, and whether it's a profession that you should be picking up. So if we have a look here to start with, the first thing you'll notice is that jewelcrafting no longer has these 1-star, 2-star, 3-star patterns. A lot of that is completely removed in Shadowlands, and I think is a great advantage. It does two things. It gives you a level playing field with everybody else, giving you, not locking things behind rep grinds, making it easier for you to pick up these professions on your alts. But on the flip side of that, if it's easier for you, it is also easier for everybody else. But that's likely to bring in more competition. But what are you going to do with jewelcrafting? Should you pick it up? Well, it's been simplified a little bit from what we know and love in Battle for Azeroth. A lot of the gems have been removed. There is now only 3 types of gems: a red gem, a yellow gem, and a blue gem. You use these gems to create doublets, which are your main basic sort of cannon fodder, trash almost base level jewellery. These are going to be socketed into gear and also used for other things later on down the line. And then once you level up a little bit further, you've got the clusters. The clusters are going to be the main things that you're going to be wanting to craft, to sell, to put on the auction house. And you've got 1 cluster for each secondary stat. So grit, mastery, haste, and versatility. 2 things to note that is quite interesting: 2 additional gems that have been added that most players are going to want to have at least 1 of in their gear is the revitalizing jewel. This is one that periodically heals you for 100 health for every Shadowlands gem you have equipped. So over time you will find that more and more of your gear is going to have gem slots in it. The more gems you put in your gear, you can exponentially, or not exponentially, but you can dramatically increase the amount of self-heal that you get from this having just 1 gem slot filled. There is another one. It's also the straddling jewel doublet. This gives you 12 speed. Now, movement speed is always helpful. It's helpful for getting out of the way of things. It's helpful for just running through those Mythic Plus dungeons quicker. It's helpful for zooming around, getting your world quests done quicker. Extra speed is always going to be helpful. It is likely that many people are going to want at least 1 of these in their gear going forward as well. So that's two little new things that are in jewelcrafting. A lot of it is the same. Jewel crafters are going to make necklaces, jewel crafters are going to make rings. That's their main goal. And as you can see from here, we have the necklaces and we have the rings, and the format for them is very similar. You have base rings, which are all usable very early on. They only require level 50, so they're going to be good for leveling up through Shadowlands. You have, once again, 1 for each specific secondary stat option. These, as you can see, actually require the main base gems. So you take your main base gems that you get from prospecting. We'll talk about prospecting a little bit in a minute. But you take, say for example, your main red gems and your yellow gems. You're going to make the deadly jewel doublets, for example, using those base gems. And those deadly jewel doublets are then going to be used in the necks and rings for crafting. Now, the reason prospecting is going to be a little bit different in this expansion is mainly because of the amount of different ores that you have to choose from. It's difficult to talk about jewelcrafting without talking about mining. Mining has had some significant changes in terms of the fact that no longer do we have just like 3 regular ores. We have 1 specialized ore for each of the main zones, so that's going to account for 4 different ores. You then have a base ore and a rare version of that ore. So in total you have 6 potential ores to choose from when it comes to, well, do I prospect this ore or that ore? Now, unfortunately, with it being the beta, we don't have solid data to go by. It's really difficult and very time consuming to get large quantities of these ore to prospect to see exactly what we get from them, to find out which one is the best. But ultimately, long term, if you're willing to buy it off the auction house, it's going to be there. Or if you farm it, there is mass prospecting available. which, like previously, takes 20 of each of the ore, is going to crush it down and give you a bunch of gems and stuff as well. Now the one thing that people are going to probably want to know about Jewelcrafting in a little bit more detail is the base legendary items. Jewelcrafters get the ability to make necklaces and they get to make rings. Those are the two things that a Jewelcrafting is really specialising in this time. You may remember in BFA you used to make staffs and you used to make a few weapons and bits and pieces like that. This time, no, keep it simple. Rings or jewellery in general is what is a Jewelcrafter's main specialisation. Now let's talk a little bit about legendaries and how they work for crafters. This is going to be expensive. I can't reiterate enough that crafting these is going to be expensive, and the reason being is that they require two different types of essences. The Shadowgast necklace requires essence of valor, and it also requires essence of servitude. Shadowgast rings require essence of suffering and essence of rebirth. Now we haven't got solid data on the beta so far, but these are most likely to be available to purchase on the auction house should you want to drop some gold on it. But the source of acquisition for these is most likely going to be prospecting, meaning you are going to be churning through a lot of ore prospecting, hunting down these essences to be able to create the Shadowgast rings and necklaces. One important thing to note is that there are, although I said there is no more ranks with Jewelcrafting, it's the legendary items that are an exception to this rule. You may see that here you have rank 1. When you've crafted a whole bunch of these, namely 10, you will unlock the ability to make a rank 2 Shadowgast necklace, and then eventually you'll get a rank 3, and then eventually you'll get a rank 4. You are going to have to craft a whole bunch of these if you want to be that guy on the server that's able to sell rank 4 Shadowgast necklaces. Why would you want to increase your rank? Well, every rank increases the item level of the base legendary item. They start off at item level 175. By the time you've crafted it into a legendary, I think it goes to 195 and goes all the way up to, I believe it being item level 235 with a rank 4. Getting there is going to be super expensive, the materials are going to be expensive, but there is one saving grace. Everything with Jewelcrafting is bind on equip. We finally have the ability to sell all of the stuff. We're no longer going to have to go through that horrible craft something, scrap it, craft a whole bunch of new stuff, then scrap it. It's simply going to be a case of what you craft you can sell on the auction house, and there's going to be a market for it certainly straight away. At least for the first patch of the expansion, Jewelcrafting is going to be really, really strong. You've got some long-term sellables. Your main gems, the deadly cluster, masterful cluster, quick cluster, and the versatile cluster are likely to sell expansion long. People are going to be replacing their gear. They're going to need to resocket their gear. These are going to be ones that you're going to be able to craft. They're going to be pretty cheap. And the reason I say they're going to be pretty cheap is because people are going to be prospecting a boatload of ore to be able to craft their legendaries, and the gems that they get from those ore are basically going to be a byproduct of crafting legendaries. So you will find that these are going to be cheap. There'll be big money to be made when Shadowland launches, but long term we might see the same situation where these get very, very cheap. But generally, Jewelcrafting looks good. I'm excited for Jewelcrafting. It's probably going to be a profession I'm going to pick up, mainly because I've used Jewelcrafting for many, many years. It's going to be expensive to level, but it's going to have big payoffs if you're one of the first to do it on your realm and your server. So then guys, that's just a quick little Jewelcrafting overview. I hope that helps you. I'm going to be releasing some more videos along this same lines, going over some of the other professions in detail. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.